that may be considered blasphemy, especially in the black community. But we have to think about these things. What if Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was wrong? And I know it wasn't just Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There were a lot of integrationists, and I'm not talking about everybody using moral suasion. Um, I think Gandhi used moral suasion one way. Um, I think Gandhi used moral suasion more like Frederick Douglass. Um, and even I think Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used moral suasion differently than Booker T. Washington. But I would say our Fannie Lou Hamers, um, our W.E.B. Du Bois's, our Medgar Evers, the integrationists. I think we need to really ponder, were these people wrong? In trying to integrate with a group of people with the worst history in this hemisphere, at least. The European or Western whites, if we just look at the history and, don't get sensitive, white people looking at it, conservative people looking at it, my MAGA people looking at it, don't get oversensitive. Just, we're pondering an idea. So let's kind of mature up. If we look at the history of the Western European, the Western white person, women had no rights within the first 200 years of this country. This was a country that was established on genocide, and it's the only place where the indigenous people are gone. That they killed them, either through disease, which was purposely coordinated, or through war, or through legislation. So they took this land and secured the land by law and made law morality. And then and this was not an accident. The same thing that happened in the United States happened in India first. And then it happened in South Africa after India. Then it happened here. So the outcomes of American history are the racism, the classism, the sexism. These things were coordinated and came across the Atlantic for financial gain. These were things that had been tested by European nations, particularly Great Britain, who was where we came from. So this is no accident. These are processes and procedures that were tested and purposely implemented for financial gain. So when we hear the impact of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., where he's talking about color of skin and content of character and black girls playing with white girls, and do we really want to integrate with that group of people? Now, it doesn't matter if you're white, it doesn't matter if you're black, it doesn't matter if you're Asian, it doesn't matter if you're Native American. If you took the color out of it and just looked at the history of the American European or the American white person, we're talking as recent as the war on drugs, as recent as mass incarceration. are we really wanting to integrate with people who spend more money on military than they do on feeding people? Poverty is a choice. It costs $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. We have sent more than that to the Ukraine and to Israel. That is the mindset of this particular group of people that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted to integrate with. That's amazingly off to me. And I know that is unpopular to say because we're supposed to love each other, and it's, everything is supposed to be rooted in this Christian love. And, well, number one, I'm not a Christian. And that's the difference between faith-based ideologies and academic ideologies. Something you have faith in, you need no proof. So you need no proof that what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was saying was intelligent. And I hate to say that because I know the guy was a genius. He got his PhD at a young age, skipped grades, very smart guy. But this was a very dangerous proposition to make, to the point of being unintelligent. And I know that's something not popular to say about a man that is that great, which I think is great. But I think that was availing yourself to danger and other people. If that's something you wanted to do, that's fine. But to make a movement that created a standard of ideological superiority, and for people to strive to that standard, they would put themselves in harm's way because of the person they're appealing to does not have the same ideological standard that you have. So I feel at one time Nelson Mandela had a much more realistic approach to civil disobedience than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as Nelson Mandela got older, and perhaps as I get older, I might get wise and see what they're saying, but I think the ideology of Nelson Mandela's later approach to politics and Martin Luther King Jr.'s approach to politics was very dangerous to the African, because the European has no history of sharing the same ideal and idea of morality. If I am trying to appeal to someone's consciousness, to appeal to them being the best person they can be, if the best person they can be is murderous, if the best person they can be is setting up class systems, if the best person they can be is setting up poverty systems, if the best person they can be is setting up incarceration systems, if the best person they can be is dividing education, I'm not going to go far with that person, which is why nothing has changed in South Africa, and nothing has let me change that. there is no progress. There is a lot of change, but there is no progress. There's no progress in the United States. Many people will say that I'm wrong. I'm going to show you. In 1865, when slavery was transferred from the private sector to the state with the 13th Amendment, black people owned 0.5% of the wealth of this country. In 2025, black people own 0.47%, less as far as a ratio. Okay? That means with the right to vote, all of the Reconstruction Amendments, the Civil Rights Movement, overturning Plessy, ending segregation, the Philadelphia Plan, affirmative action, the Kerner Report, DEI, critical race theory, black people still have not progressed out of the same percentile allotted for them in the nation's wealth than they did 160 years ago. That's how you can have change, but not progress. So a lot of times when people say, well, things have gotten so much better, my question to them is for who? Because numerically, we have no proof that DEI is harmful to anybody. You know who benefits from DEI and affirmative action and CRT? White women. This is a statistical fact. Who got more jobs? Who got more education? Who increased their wealth as a group? White women, not black people. So all of this DEI, we got to get rid of DEI. Black wealth has gone down since 1865 as a percentile. And that's counting NBA players, that's counting black billionaires, that's counting NFL, that's counting MLB, all of those millionaires. As a percentile, we own the same amount of wealth that we did immediately after slavery. So don't think that change is progress. Now, what really made me start to ponder this was a Mexican young lady I know whose mother told her not to marry a Latino man, to marry a white man, because white men don't beat their women. Now, this young lady was confiding this in me because she was a student of mine at the university in my U.S. history class, and she took 2 of them. And she began to tell her mother about how Mexico owned most of North America, and it was taken by way of the annexation of Texas, and then the Mexican-American War. Yet her mother has this idea that white is the standard. Let me see. I would imagine the disproportionate metrics surrounding U.S. abortion rates could be a factor in wealth percentage figures. I don't see how. Birth mortality, I wouldn't see how that would factor in, especially over almost 2 centuries. I don't see how that would factor in as far as wealth figures. If we are talking about being relatively the same percentile of population, and with our talent our resources, our intellect, because we know the great minds and the great inventors and the great politicians and the great businessmen that have historically come out of the black community with more access to education, with more access to jobs, with more access to all of these different facets that we allegedly do, the it's still not reflected in our acquisition. So, but again, if you listen to the politics is black fatigue. Everything's being done for black people. Where's the reflection of that? Why is it, no matter what um, America's unemployment rate is, it's always higher in the black community, usually doubled. Guys, I gotta run, but I appreciate that. I just had to get that off the mind. Make sure you join the channel, like, subscribe, share, and join the channel. It's absolutely free. Academic History Channel. Have a great day.